Vayikro. At least a short point from this week's Likutei Torah. And this week's parsha, he talks about putting salt on top of a korban. Every korban that we bring, we have to put salt. And without salt, the korban cannot be brought on top of the mizbeach, on top of the altar. The question is, what is the great significance of salt? And it's brought down that you have a sacrifice that you bring to Hashem, and that will be as example as learning Torah. When you learn God's wisdom, you connect to Hashem, you connect to God Himself. Now, if the things that you're learning about is something that you can actually relate to and understand, then you're completely grasping that concept. So let's say you're talking about that law about if a ox gored a cow, or something which is more connected to us. You take an apple, you say a blessing on the apple, or you take and what you're allowed to do on Sabbath, what you're not allowed to do. So those are specific things that are very tangible. We can talk about the apple, we understand exactly the apple, we understand words. You say words when before you're eating the apple, you say words of blessing after you eat the apple. Those things we can understand and comprehend in our mind. And by us understanding and grasping things which are godly wisdom, but we completely understand and completely take it over and completely carry it and completely connect it, we are becoming one with that wisdom. So my thought and the understanding of the apple, the blessing before and after, I understand apple, I understand the blessing, I understand everything. My mind completely grasps it, and I'm becoming completely one with that understanding. By that, I'm becoming completely one and united with God's wisdom. Together with it, there's another type of wisdom when we talk about the spiritual worlds. So, for example, we're talking about higher worlds, let's say Atzilus, Bria. We're talking about godly worlds that we have no real understanding what it is. We have the words that describe it. We make different analogies that we can compare to it and some type of understanding to it, but really not grasping it. So our grasp of that concept is not the same as the grasp, of example, of the apple, as we spoke about before. Nevertheless, there is a point of this knowledge which is greater than the other knowledge. Because when a person, for example, understands that you have apple, you have to say blessing the apple, you say words, understand the words, understand apple, and I connect with that knowledge. But that knowledge does not bring me to a greater love or fear of Hashem by me understanding about what needs to be done with this apple. However, understanding our godliness, our God creates the world every single second, and God is recreating it for Himself. And from Himself it becomes every single second. The world is being created. From that there is a tremendous love and fear to Hashem. And that's something that comes with understanding the inner part of the Torah, which does not come from understanding the external part of the Torah. The example that is brought down is a person told a person, please take a large measure of wheat and put it in my attic. And the person followed that direction. And then after the person asked him, did you put a kav chumtin? Did you put a special salted dirt that actually comes and it's like a preservative that the grain shouldn't rot? And the person says, no. So he says, what's the point of bringing the wheat to the attic if everything will get rotten? The small amount of salt preserves and protects that wheat. Similar to that, by learning the inner part of the Torah, understanding the concept how God creates the world every single second, and now we are constantly connected to Hashem, that gives us the protection and making sure that the parts that we learn, it's being protected and actually being always connected to Hashem in an open way. And that's the concept of the salt. The sacrifice itself was much larger than the salt. The salt was just a small amount. But that small amount preserves and makes sure that it's being protected and makes sure that that sacrifice can be elevated and not, God forbid, being pulled down. And this is what we have to learn, that we have to make sure to learn the inner part of the Torah that brings in the love and fear to Hashem, and with that we can be connected to Hashem in an open and revealed way. A good Shabbos.